When I was a freshman in high school, I was very optimistic. Some might even call me naive. I had high hopes that this was where things would finally get better for me, where I'd finally get a girlfriend. That's when I met my friend Nate in my 7th period bio class. Both Nate and I had the same sense of humor, down to the very minute detail.
Everything, down to the last minute details.
We'd finish each other's jokes, we had the same interests, the same taste in music, and even similar career goals. But there was one critical difference between us. Nate was conventionally attractive. White, 5'11", 6 out of 10 face. I wasn't attractive. But of course, I didn't know that at the time. What happened next was like watching two different movies unfold with the same script, with vastly different audience reactions. The same joke that earned me blank stares would have a group dying of laughter when Nate delivered it.
Good one,
The
Nate.
same friendly gesture that made me seem creepy
God, you're so weird.
made Nate seem thoughtful and sweet, and I must have tried with so many girls, using the same humor Nate would use around them. But unlike him, they would briefly enter, and then unceremoniously exit my life. What I experienced wasn't just bad luck. It wasn't just a few mean people. It was a pattern so consistent, it couldn't be ignored. Looking back on it, there was an innocence to my persistence. I kept trying, believing that each interaction would be different. I was blind to how appearance shaped my reality. Maybe there was a strange mercy in that ignorance.
Happiness exists when you don't know a thing. So I hope you don't think this song is about you.
I remember the first time I ever met Nate's girlfriend, Kat. It was in my history class that same year. I remember I was talking to the guy in front of me, and somehow she got roped into the conversation. We talked a bit, and I remember making some funny jokes, just gesturing my ass off. I can't tell you exactly what I said, since this was 7 years ago. Damn, that makes me sound old. But I do remember what she said in response.
Oh my god, you have the same sense of humor as my boyfriend.
And for a while, me, Nate, Kat, we were all friends. Kat would dote about Nate, saying how she found his intelligence to be cute and attractive. And mind you, at the same time, I was trying to reinvent myself, getting away from the stereotype of the nerdy South Asian kid. But here Kat was talking about Nate's brilliance. Everything went well, until Nate dumped her. If you watched my South Asian SMV video, you know that he tried setting me up with her. And to be honest with you, I was kind of developing feelings for her post-breakup. Kat and I had become good friends, and at this point, I was her #1 orbiter. But, of course, she rejected me over text despite his attempts to get her to date me, saying,
I dated Nate. We could never date.
Fuck. Just writing this is making me feel a pang of embarrassment years later, just replaying this text over in my head. So much for having the same sense of humor. I thought girls liked funny guys. One of the last things Nate and I did freshman year was see Avengers Endgame. Back when Marvel movies were still considered good. Nate and I decided to get some popcorn, and we left the theater to grab some. When we came back to scan our tickets, the girl working at the register let him go, but pulled me aside saying that she didn't remember scanning me in. Bullshit. I bought the tickets for Nate in exchange for him buying me popcorn. The tickets were on my goddamn phone. Between freshman and sophomore year of high school, Nate and I had a bit of a falling out. I got mad at him since he kept joking around during a serious conversation, and I told him off. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I basically told him that he should go find new friends, and that's kind of what he did. I was pretty bad in the moment, but I didn't mean it. I tried reconciling with him more times than I can count, but he never came around. Worst of all, it caused our friend group, the one I invited into, mind you, to fragment. And remember how I said he kinda found new friends? Well, he just took mine. Everyone I introduced him to took his side, except for one, who eventually became my roommate Jake, who I've mentioned before. But all my other friends, they all hung out at his house, without me. And that's how it remained for the rest of high school. During this time, Nate flourished, getting higher grades and making more friends than I could ever imagine, living a way better life than me, getting girlfriends left and right, while I kept getting rejected despite having the same personality as him, so I was told. This friend group rift was the thing that really destroyed my peace of mind. It was the beginning of the end for me. I definitely started spiraling. I kept at the Jester Max until my sophomore year was abruptly cut off by the pandemic. And during this time, I discovered the PSL sphere. I realized how everything I was told about personality was a lie. And next to the race pill, Nate and my divulging treatments from people were what made everything really click. My parents decided to make me do my junior year online, but I came back my senior year. I remember one of the last events we ever did for cross country by senior year was a campfire bonding activity at this kid Arnold's house. There were around 12 seniors there, including Arnold and his new girlfriend Jenny sitting to his left. Arnold had recently broken up with his old girlfriend Skylar, and was getting close to Jenny at this time. We all reminisced about funny memories. Nate talked about how he hooked up with a girl over the summer in the back of his car while we were all there. Keep in mind that this was the same girl Jake, who wasn't at the campfire, or even any sports for that matter, got friend-zoned by. So I never bothered telling him until a few months later. Eventually, we all went around asking each other questions at the campfire, and when it was time for Nate to ask Arnold a question, he literally asked in front of Jenny.
How many times did you rip Skylar?
Now, Arnold wouldn't do such a thing to my knowledge, and everyone just kinda sat there in awkward silence, laughing it off, until Arnold said,
I didn't.
and moved on. Now, you might take this silence as disapproval from the crowd, which I would kind of agree to, but imagine if I said that. Anyways, to make things worse, my one-nightist from middle school, Penelope, was also there. And at this time, I wasn't really interested in her anymore, and she also came out as bisexual. Take that as you will, and as if what he said earlier wasn't bad enough, he followed it up with another question.
I heard you kiss girls. How's that going?
I'm not gonna go into detail.
She said meekly, laughing a bit. Again, you might take this as disapproval, but nobody else said anything. But I know for a fact, if I implied even a quarter of what Nate said, they would have thrown me into the pit of fire we were all sitting at. As the night progressed, everyone was asking each other questions about their best drunk memories, but when they finally got to me, Jenny looked up with a sly grin on her face. Instead of asking me my best drunk memory like she did for everybody else, she asked,
So Dre, what's your GPA?
trying hard to hold in her laughter. This whole time, all this gesture maxing and trying not to look like a nerd had amounted to nothing. I quietly answered, 4.3, and nobody said anything, except for Nate.
Mine's a 4.2.
He butt in.
Wow, that's really impressive, Nate.
You're so smart, Nate.
Great job, Nate.
When we both ended up going to the same college, these patterns didn't fade away. In fact, they actually intensified. Nate managed to get a huge group of friends who all seemed to adore him. He always seemed to be the charismatic guy everyone loved. Even though we didn't hang out at this time, we had a few mutual friends, and I remember this one time I hung out with one of those aforementioned mutual friends. Now, this guy brought along some girls, and all they could talk about was how funny Nate was, even though he wasn't even there to begin with. Meanwhile, every time I told a joke, they would all say it was fucked up and how it was really offensive. Needless to say, I didn't talk to those girls again. The halo effect is one of those things we can't ever really escape, yet it is the backbone of the PSL community altogether. The notion that every interaction you have with another person is predetermined simply by the way you look is really damning to me. There are plenty of studies out there showing how more attractive people get paid more than their ugly counterparts. We all know about that. But more interesting to me was how there was a study which documented how less attractive people tend to be the victims of workplace bullying, and how they end up being considered the bully on top of that. Now, I don't want to bring up the time I worked at Starbucks for the millionth time, but all I will say is I get why everyone I worked with disliked me so much for the short amount of time I was there. But yeah, I don't have much else to add that people haven't already said. I just wanted to make this video since it's been brewing in my head for a long time. I got to experience the halo effect in my own life with my ex-friend Nate. The same personality, but one of us is partying down the street tonight while the other one's making this video. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.
This is a certified PSL classic.